Okay, thank you for coming. I need to say, first of all, I'm not a senior marker. I'm a pilot marker. Catherine McDougall was the senior marker for this and she's not able to come tonight, so I was asked if I could. I've been a pilot marker for a number of years. Marked question 11 many years ago, but I've been marking extended responses for a number of years, and it was quite a learning curve, but also allowed me to be more positive, I suppose, in terms of on-screen marking and marking this last year. I worked at OOC Paramount. Now, this is what I intended doing, but it could end up a little bit different. I thought we'll look at the syllabus just to see the range of possibilities. We'll look at the particular question last year, which was an interesting question, but when you look at the syllabus, you can see where it's come from. And I've just got one other, I've got marker feedback from this, from last year. And then another year's marker feedback, and then just some general questions or general ways to approach answering question 11. And then, you can ask questions about the process or general questions with time. And I didn't do any handouts or anything, so I hope you don't mind. I've just brought one copy of the paper to point out a couple of things. So this is half the syllabus for this part of the topic. And as you know, there's 10 model choice. So this is half of it. And when you look at that, there's the learn about, the facts, and then what the students should be able to do, what they learn to do. So I'll just give you a moment to look at that. There's a lot of possibilities there. That's half the syllabus when you've got 10 model choice functions. So if you think about how many questions can you think of from that? So I'll just go back. And you know, we kind of look at it and we think, well, that question was asked a couple of years ago or last year, so they probably won't ask it now. So we have a bit of an idea of some questions. I think last year's question was a little bit different. And it seems that a lot of students had prepared something else, and they were going to write that down their arms. So when you look at that, how many questions you see possible? You can mix up different things, so there's a lot. Yeah, so you've got that one, and then this is the what. Now, when we look at that, can you see where last year's question came from? Can you remember what last year's question was? Yeah, that's coming. Okay, well, I'll read it. In what ways has dispossession continued to affect Aboriginal spiritualities? How does that fit in there? If we look at the line about, where's it come from? Okay, but even above that, it's got issues for, and it seems that's what that's what they really need to look at. Where maybe we gloss over that, and we teach them the effect of dispossession, and we're looking at the land rights movement. It's interesting because I haven't really looked at the syllabus until I was preparing this, and I looked at it and thought, that's right, it's there, issues. Issues for Aboriginal spiritualities in relation to that. Discuss the continuing effect, there's the question, but we're looking at the issues in relation to the effect of dispossession. So it's definitely there. So this is the question. What are the key words here? I'll just let you, maybe you can write them down and think about it. You don't have to share it as such, or you might. I'll give you, look at it, talk to each other. What do you think are the key words there? Yeah. And that's the word that most students didn't really notice. Okay? The marking guidelines had, continues. It had to be not stopped. Had to be continuing, and that's where this clear discriminator with that. I was trying to think, it's a while since I marked it in November, but I was thinking through some of the ways that some students approached it. So someone had an outline of the land rights movement. It's not really very relevant to it, but that's what a lot wrote. How dispossession came about, all about dispossession. The history, some of them had lots of examples. Social costs of dispossession, some of them it was more like a society and culture, inequality. Like when I went to teach society and culture, we had lots of statistics that wasn't necessarily relevant. The consequences leading to loss of access to sacred sites, to enlightened spirituality, even loss of some Aboriginal spiritualities, that's getting a bit closer to it. Ongoing difficulties faced attempting to provide evidence. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Did I? Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm changing it. Connection to land when tribal groups had been removed from their land, mainly delays before the claim was before the courts. Meaning death of Indigenous elders who actually held the oral tradition or would take the judges there to say this is where we did this is the evidence, this is the story about this tree or whatever it might be. Now, in a later slide, we'll go through it quickly, but I wrote in terms of this question, it's a lucky dip, right? I tell my students, this is a lucky dip, you have to learn it all. Now, my school was quite fortunate with this lucky dip because we set the first task was one where they had to research particular land rights cases and be aware of those that had taken a long time to resolve. So they saw that some is like 25 years, 20 years, some claims that aren't resolved as yet. So they had a specific example, and if they shared those examples, they could write about that. So when I was marking it, saw the question, the marking criteria, and I thought, I'm hoping some of our girls will realise that what they did for their first task would be helpful for this. And then when we got the RAP data, I saw that I think the average for the state was 3 and ours was higher than that, a bit higher. So, our choice of task, and we should give a different task for the first one. We've tried to do different things to get them thinking, researching. It paid off for this question, but it's only 5-mark questions, so it's going to have a huge impact, but they did have up-to-date evidence that was put there and they had that sense of ongoing. So when you look at this, the key words, in what ways has dispossession continued, as you all said, continued to affect Aboriginal spiritualities? Now, what a lot, and the first number of those there, they didn't really talk about Aboriginal spirituality, let alone spiritualities. So they really needed to cover the fact that it's Aboriginal spirituality, that's what you're looking at the impact on. Their ability to enliven, to nurture, and to maintain their specific spirituality by linking to their sacred sites, being able to tell their stories, keeping their language. So a lot of some students, spoke about language, spoke about loss of language, but then spoke about languages that have been recorded, so it's there. That sense of having contact with the land. But they also spoke about the frustration of the delays in the courts. That's really inhibited much of the Indigenous being able to actually know, learn, connect with their specific spirituality. But acknowledging the fact that each tribal group has their own specific spirituality. So some that sort of were on the mark spoke as if there's one Aboriginal spirituality. Some, not that many, but some said how it's completely gone, it can never be retrieved. Where were they when it was being taught to them? But there were some that were great. So there tended to be a small number that were brilliant, some that were okay, but lots were around the 3. Okay. So I've probably told you what it requires. So maybe write down based on what I've said, if you want to just write down what you think you probably have done already. But do you want to have a little buzz about that? What this requires?
How many lines do they get to write?
It's 3 lines a night, 15 lines.
So that's 15.
Yeah, 15 lines. So I'll just leave you with that, and then I only brought the one, sorry, but just to point out about, because it's on screen marking, that's the other significant thing you need to know.
What happens if they move on the line?
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. The important thing is to be integrating terminology, and if possible, specific examples. So that's that sense that the intergenerational transfer of that knowledge, that spirituality, has been hampered. Rights, initiation rights, balance rights, all those sorts of things. So
the British referring to the syllabus to all our objections to that, or the future would they could say that is no longer able to do.
yeah. So it was disappointing that some students out, I suppose I've got this here, we can talk about this. When I had a good look at this when I was preparing, I realised this is the only page that has the little corner marks there. I didn't quite know what to call those, so I was trying to find out. I do have a slide with that. Some students, it's pretty obvious that they're like, we all have students like it. They read the question and they think, right, I'm going to answer this. And they write, and they get to about here, and then they think, I haven't answered what's asked. So then they start writing really close, and they keep coming, and they go down to there, and then they start writing sideways, and they do an arrow, and they might write the other side, which makes it interesting to read, If it's scanned, and this is a question I was asked, if it's scanned, it can only read what's inside those, that's all that gets scanned. Now, for the years that this has been on-screen marked, it's marked corporate because all the other markers in their groups marking their questions, like with the paper, and the teachers marking this question, they're in another area with carpet, so they don't trip over the cords and that, so they're in a corner, and marking on screen. The monitors are massive, which is great. That's a plus, because if the writing is such you're having trouble reading, you can increase, you can make it larger. But some of them you realise the students written beyond. Now, because this is the only question marked on screen for studies religion, it means that the papers are there where you are as well. So they can be, you can say, the marker will say to the senior marker, in this case it was Catherine McDougall, look, we can't read it, it's continued over there. Or we've come down here, there seems to be more because it's finished mid-phrase. So the marker gives the number, and then that's given to the clerical people, and they will find the paper and any others that they know they can't scan, and they were actually paper marked. Now, I don't know whether that will continue or not, because you know how we tell the students, we try to tell this, we tell them, we hope that they comprehend that you need to write within this space. Sometimes you have a student that has very large writing, so it's probably good to say to them, use the space, and they can ask for a booklet, right? And they can write in a booklet, and that will get scanned with this. And so it tells us that it's 2 pages. You understand it? Rather than, please tell them not to squash up here, right to the bottom, or right to the edges. In the past we might say, you've got big writing, write all the way across, and it's fine, because the marker gets this and you can see it all, but that's not the case now. So, particularly if they've got large writing, you could say, well, get a booklet. It's expected that the questions are set by the examiners that the expectation is the average student can answer in this space. So if a student has an answer and they've got some terminology they've looked at, continued to impact, they've talked about something there that gives an idea they understand there's a diversity of Aboriginal spirituality, we need to to look at it and think, well, looking at the marking criteria, why wouldn't it get 5? Because they've used the lines that are there. But if they've got a whole lot that's irrelevant and then attempted to answer it, well, it's not necessarily going to get there. So writing, 2 pages isn't going to guarantee the mark.
One of the issues I've found with the students is that they tend to feel like they need to give elaborate definitions of everything, like the market has never studied the subject before.
Yeah.
Is it good advice to say to them, look, you need to take it as a given that the marker is going to understand what you mean when you use certain definitions and terminology?
Yes.
You don't have to elaborate on everything.
No, definitely. They need to integrate the terminology so that they're doing it at a high level, because weaker students want to define everything, and I'll say, oh, I wrote all of these. They should be using, as in any other subject, they should be using the terminology integrated in their response so that they're showing their articulate and comprehensive understanding of the subject matter and then using it to answer a specific question. Does that make sense? Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? And there were quite a few that were, like there was a big bundle, and I think they found some more that needed to be paper marked. I actually enjoyed it. When I was asked to mark them, and I just felt like you were actually marking when you hang on to it, because it's what we're used to. But there were certain benefits from on the screen, right? And I'll talk a little bit about the process when I go through this. Now, I only discovered this very recently, so I didn't realise that I know we did mark comments. So this is the comments. Have you seen this? Most of you have. Now this is very general, but this is what we all wrote some comments in the book, and then it was put together by the SOM and Cass. So this is from the Boston's website. I didn't include that there, but that's where I got it from. So identifying the effects, students showed strength identifying the effects of dispossession on Aboriginal spiritualities, supporting the response with reference to specific aspects of Aboriginal spirituality, so there would be a terminology. Some of them might have had specific examples. Integrating relevant and accurate terminology throughout the response. So that's where that sense of integrating rather than here's a definition. Candidates need to improve, so this is what we need to take note of. Addressing the specific requirements of the question by focusing on the continuing effects of dispossession. And that's what was really lacking for many. On Aboriginal spiritualities rather than the past effects. So they were very good at talking about past effects. They didn't answer the question, which was continued, so they need to have continuing. So if there was something where they mentioned that this was ongoing, then they could be paid. In some way that, if they're talking about, future generations need to, and then they had everything else right, then it's okay. So they had to address that fact of what's going to be continuing. Referring to effects of Aboriginal spirituality rather than effects on culture. This was many wrote about culture and not the spirituality. And I think I've seen that a bit with a number of my students. So we need to be very careful, show them the syllabus and say it's on spiritualities. Okay, it's not culture. And I know we would all do that, but we have to really maybe, revising and say this is what you've really got to look at. Remind them to use the terminology so it's pretty obvious that that's what they're writing about. If they're not using the terminology, then they're probably not covering it as they should. Making specific reference to aspects of Aboriginal spiritualities rather than generalisations about land and dreaming. Some of them wrote this great response on dreaming, land and dreaming, but it wasn't what the question asked for. If they had given some specific examples about the dreaming, then and looking about the ongoing effects on the dreaming, they would have been able to get there. So it's a matter of there's no one way to answer most questions in our subject. It's where you come from and what evidence you provide to answer the specific question. So they could have perhaps started with that and gone and had something that was relevant, but many of them left it at dreaming, thinking dreaming equates with spirituality, and left it there without really looking to see the effect, continued effect of dispossession. So, thank you. Do you want to look at that a little bit longer? Or? It is on the website. I think I just looked at Bosti's HSC SOR 2015 marker feedback or something like that.
Can you just unpack the last point there a little bit?
The last one. So they might have been writing something about dreaming, a specific example, dreaming whether it's rainbow, serpent, or for a particular group, but it was a dreaming response rather than looking at the effect of disposition. So this is probably an example where they'd learned dreaming, and knew a lot about that, specific examples, and that's what they'll put in there.
So if they had to say, because of dispossession from the land, they would be unable to fulfil their ritual obligations to maintain their connection with their particular dreaming story.
That would be, depending what else they said, because that might not be what these students have written. So it's generalisations about dreaming. So it's focusing on dreaming without really looking at that connection with this to enliven, enrich, deepen their spirituality and allow that to be handed on. You see, like they've got this bit, and in what you've said, you're sort of getting there. Might be around the 3, but they have to say a bit more with that sense of, are they talking about spiritualities? If they're just describing the spiritualities, they're not answering ongoing impact to continue, how it's going to continue into the future. What's impeding the future?
Okay.
They need to address that.
Yeah. So it sounds like, in what you've said, it's attempted to do it, but it's not going to depend what is said as the evidence to support that. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just ask a question in terms of referring to spirituality rather than the effects on culture? So if the students sort of wrote about cultural fragmentation in terms of them not being able to pass on their understanding of ritual to younger generations, they wouldn't get marks for that?
That would be getting there. Like some students are writing that, they're away from the, what it might be, it's more looking at the fact that their lifestyle has changed. So it's sort of culture rather than their spirituality. They haven't written about spirituality. They don't realise that dreaming spirituality is that sense of responsibility to the land, being aware of those and that ongoing obligations that need to be fulfilled, that connection to the, being able to connect with the sacred sites. Okay, ask the next question.
No, that's okay.
You sure?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you write down some points, everybody writes down points in an exercise book and then it gets collated. So this is very, very much condensed.
Yeah, I would have just sort of seen the two as inextricably connected, that's all.
Yeah.
But isn't it where
But it only is if the student writes that, because some of them are writing about they can't talk their language, they've lost their language, but they don't link that to that sense of loss of the spirituality.
Yeah, okay, right.
So they can use the words, but it's the next bit. So it's like, how students can get the basis and they understand, and then the next lesson you ask them a question, you realise
they need to make the link.
They need to make the link, and that's what, there's potential in a lot of them, but what they're writing about isn't really going that little bit further.
Yeah.
I just said it marking once, it was a while ago, but it was a question 11 and a lot of them were writing about sort of alcohol and
Yes.
it was a question on dispossession, and a lot of them were talking about, say, people walking over the Harbour Bridge was a really good example of reconciliation, but they didn't then make the connection to spirituality.
Yeah.
So it was more a disconnected way of, and that's sort of how I interpret life.
And that's what where they're writing about, that it's leading to, because of the loss of dreaming, the loss of identity, then they turn to alcohol, drug abuse.
Yeah.
That's not spirituality.
No, that's right. Yeah, I understand.
And that's what
Yeah.
some were very much caught up with that. So it's that sense that it is, we can acknowledge that that's a serious problem, but the question focuses on spirituality.
I can see that.
That's your final point that you want them to get to.
They really need to acknowledge the different, originally there were, 900 language groups, and now it's down to, a couple hundred. Many of the sacred lands are no longer accessible. They have been, and they'll never be accessible to them. They might give specific examples, so they might talk about those who've been at missions. So, say last year I was at Beagle Bay, so when I went to Beagle Bay, some of the Indigenous people there, they have their spirituality there because it's their tribal land. But for others, they've come from other parts, so their spirituality is very minimal because they don't know their tribal lands, so that they don't have that. But some of the others do, so they have their language, they have access to their sacred sites. They can go and have initiation rituals and other rituals and ceremonies. So it's that sense that some have access, some Indigenous tribes have access to their sacred sites and they have their language, whereas others it's completely lost. And others know what their land is and they've got court cases trying to get access to that land and they're taking a very long time to go through the courts. So last year, one of the ones that it just come through was 25 years before it was resolved. Some others, it's, as I said, what is needed. So while the solution is land rights, and people think, land rights, it's all good, there needs to be that, the evidence of the ongoing connection, and that may not be available because the elders, as I said, have died. So it's specific examples to show ongoing, and that loss of 900 languages to this. If the language is no longer alive and used, then the spirituality is not. But we need to also make sure the students realise that for many tribal groups, the spirituality is functioning and it's working out okay. Like they can pass it on. And as I said, it's quite many areas in Western Australia, Queensland. Actually, when I was looking at this, there was a map I came across on the Creative Spirits website. It's something they put there on the 5th of May, just this year. And it has a map of Australia, and on that map it shows the areas of land where land rights have been given, and most are in Western Australia. The least are in New South Wales and Victoria, and there's not very many in Northern Territory. I suggest you look at that Creative Spirits. It was there, and it's got about a case where it's taken a long time to go through as well. So some of those, I think, as with most parts of our syllabus, up-to-date examples so that they can say, this has taken this long, they're fighting. It's that frustration of trying to really ensure that their children and the future generations have access to their sacred sites with their language preserved so that they can have that initiation to ensure their identity is, solid, whole. That wholeness for the people, for the Indigenous or whatever that tribal group is. This is another question. I don't know whether you want to look at another one or whether you want to focus on this or you want to know about this was 2012. How religious traditions in Australia give support to the process of Aboriginal reconciliation. This is the marking criteria. Detailed and accurate. So it's that sense of having details and being accurate. And with this particular one with reconciliation, there's a need to make sure you've got a range of religions. Because it says religious traditions, so you need to have at least 3, not 5 marker.
Did you get a 5 mark if you did?
2.
If you just, a number of students have say they might write only on Christianity, so that might, because it's traditions, because here in our syllabus, this part, oh yeah, 3 would be, certainly. But, you know, we have the 5 religious traditions, so I think if you, you know, 2, you certainly, with 1, I doubt it would. 2, possibly 3, yes. It depends on the marking criteria, but I think we need to, you know, I try to do it, but what students do is their decision, but try to get them to write as comprehensive a response as they can. If, with the question 11, they really need to write succinctly, and that's where, I mean, I've got some tips we'll get to in a minute, and then I'll talk about the process, but many of them, as I said, they read the question, they just want to write everything they know without really thinking through what it's asking for. How we get them to change that mindset and do something different. I mean, I'm trying, but you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you can see simple statements, 1 to 2. You know, 3 and 4, you know, an accurate understanding, but it's just not that detailed and focused to the question to get the 5. So the 5s, it's not saying students can't get 5, but they need to have like a really focused and good content in their response.
So if you say religious traditions, students are going to make generalisations. So say they're looking at a Jewish response. To what extent can they write about organisations within Judaism, individuals, you know, particular agencies?
Okay.
Because to make those generalisations about the religious tradition is very broad.
So in this one, I interpret it as actual specific organisations or initiatives. So it's not the individual or like my neighbours, you know, got this, I'm doing what I can and I'm really a good friend to my, you know, local Indigenous people. Well, it's more looking at organisations, actions, you know, events that are really making that effort. So you want specific examples, and sometimes it's it might be religions, you know, well, a number of religious traditions coming together, and that might cover it that way. You might say something about Uniting Church or NCCA, which can cover, you know, you can cover all Christians pretty much. So, but it's not just a particular type example. It needs to be a specific organisation or some event or action.
I suppose actually, as I'm thinking about it, it could be representative bodies of that religious tradition.
Yes, that's what it needs to be.
So the NCCA would be a representative body
for Christianity.
For Christianity.
Yeah. So a specific example, and I mean they're covered in the textbook, but as with most of SO's religion, get the students to do some research, what's happening now, because the textbooks are a bit dated. Anyway, which one? So this is for questions looked at. So here the better responses wrote within the space. It's interesting that was the feedback. They wrote within the space, and this was, that would have been on screen, 2012, probably was on screen, I think. Provided and produced quality rather than quantity. So I thought it's important to look at this because that's what we're trying to tell them. Like, because they're using, you know, 2 pages, it doesn't mean it's a good answer. They clearly demonstrated how at least here it's got at least 2, so 2, have contributed to the process of Aboriginal reconciliation. Also referred to variants of the religious traditions where appropriate and provided relevant examples. Okay, so it's the examples, it's the evidence, makes something supportive, as in any other subject. Comprehensive understanding of the timeline and aspects of Aboriginal spirituality were included in some of the responses. So like the process, how to get there, and maybe the contribution of religious traditions to get to the current position. So some were really good with that. So that's it. Right. And this is, you can always go to the Bosnia's website and find these, you know, they've got the table for each year and you can look at these. So this is one that I thought, well, that's a little bit related, but just to show you, that's the sort of thing I wanted to say, and there it is. This is from the website. I should have put the link there. Okay with that. The other thing I was thinking, when the syllabus was changed, we were told that the questions would be very different. I'm still waiting for that to come about. They said there'd be maybe cartoons, tables, quotes, pictures. It hasn't really happened, but it's probably worthwhile to mention to students that they could get something a bit different and not to be shocked. Right. So if the question says referring to the stimulus, whether it's a quote, and they have had quotes quite regularly, but if it's a cartoon or something, they need to refer to that. Now, I know in question 22 sometimes there's some sort of stimulus, but there hasn't been for this one. I can't recall, there may have been once or twice, but not that much. With that in mind, what do you think the questions could be? Got any ideas? What are the buzz for people near you?
Immigration.
Oh, it's got to fit in. Oh, it could be, yeah. With that's the thing. Statistics. They used to give something about statistics. We haven't had that for a long time. I kept thinking. I tell my students it's going to happen, and it didn't happen again last year. So move on. These are some of my tips, and they're things that you would tell your students to, no doubt. Read the question carefully, taking note of important words. If there's a quote or stimulus cartoon graph, refer to it explicitly. Plan a response to ensure all required points are covered succinctly. So I try and say to my students, read the question, think about what it's asking, go through your response in your head, and when you get to the bit that's actually answering the question, that's when you start writing. They don't take me up on that. But some of them are starting to realise when they get work back that half the space is irrelevant, and then they're getting to the point, so that could help. Aim to use only the lines that are there, and that means on the lines, not going beyond, right? Using this. But and it's fine to go down here, to there, but if they need more, don't squash it up, ask for another booklet. Some students write here and ask for a booklet, and they write like one line in it. You think, like, why not? One or two lines here, but they're probably told only use the lines. So it's that, some are literal. But if they only want to write one or two more lines, it's fine to do it here. Okay? Provide specific examples, that's what, the Boston site had. Plan your response, review past papers, and it's only 5-mark questions, so don't waste your time writing too much. Does anyone want to know anything about the marking process we've got on screen or as a pilot marker? Anyone else marked? Anyone marked? I thought I was a pilot marker, but at marking last year I was told I was a test marker. So what the system is that the senior markers and the SOM read the marking guidelines, and they read scripts and decide how that will be applied, check it out. So they do that one day, and then the pilot markers go in the next day. But found out test markers so that we look at the marking, look at the question, look at the marking guidelines, read some that they're saying that what they've decided what the mark is, and then we check up, make sure we're consistent, and then we read a number of scripts and mark them like pilot marking, what they call it, test marking. So I did that on screen, the test marking, and then my graph gets looked at by someone from Boston, and they decide whether it's okay or not to test whether the marking guidelines being applied to those scripts give the type of spread that they wanted. So that was different for me last year. They signed it off, they thought it was all right, and then when the markers came. On that first day, we also have to work out the benchmarks. Now, with a 5-mark question, it's not, we basically needed a benchmark for a 1-mark, a 2-mark, a 3-mark, a 4-mark, and a 5-mark. And we needed to make sure they were as close to possible as we could to that, because they were used as, call them like, forget the terminology, but they're like the commons, and they're put on screen, so at any time the marker can look at those benchmarks and see that's what it won, that's a 2, 4, or 5. In the marking, it's up to the senior marker to decide how often there will be like a common go through. And in the beginning there's a lot more of those, and so if you don't get the mark that is expected, then the person gets locked out. Because we were marking, at the marking centre, it was interesting because the senior marker, normally we're marking at home, right? The senior marker gets a message, person's locked out, and they've got to phone that person. So it would take a while, but when we're right next to the person almost, a couple of people away. And then the person needs to speak to the senior marker, look through it, say why they gave that, maybe learn why it should be something different, and then, continue marking. And the number of those comments that can be there to check accuracy can change. It doesn't have to be the same for every marker. So if someone is going okay, they might have, 1 in, 50. Somebody else might be 1 in 20. So it's up to the senior marker to decide how to set that up. Does that make sense? So while it's only marked by one person, it's there's quite a bit of time to ensure there's consistency. As I said, the benchmarks are there for every marker to look at. So whenever we arrived, subsequent days, it's a matter of look at those and refresh yourself with that, and then start marking. So makes sense. So it is fair.
Will we spend last year's gloves at home? Should we go to the homes next year?
I have no idea. We were told a number of years ago that it was pretty much all going to be on screen, and the first year was on screen was question 11 and 22, and they couldn't work out how to do both the questions. I don't know what happened. So since then it's only been question 11. So when you look here, you see it's only question 11. I'm not aware of hearing anymore. But when you get the paper, if question 22 is like that, then the intention is to be on screen, but there seems to be some error with they weren't able to sort it out, so at the moment it's just this. But I think we're certainly getting that way, and I think more markers are getting a taste of on-screen marking, and I think that's probably good to realise it's okay. All right, because even though I did like hang on to the ones I needed to paper markers, so I feel like you're marking. Yeah. Any other? Any other questions on this paper process? I don't want you to leave here with a question, or if I didn't answer something as well as you would like, try.
So in relationship to the multiple choice questions, they'll often try and be complementary. You won't get an overlap between question 11 and multiple choice.
Yeah, I think that certainly they would look at that. I know a teacher from my school was on the exam committee a long time ago now, but yeah, certainly the wording of the questions, and they would look to make sure that because if we look, there's a lot of scope in the syllabus for 10 multiple marker, so they're usually quite.
Noticed last year that in some of the multiple choice they were putting in prelim stuff.
It's interesting because even sometimes, like the HSC questions it's a course that can come from anywhere. So 2009 when there was that unusual question for the extended responses.
The circles.
When it talked about it was a listing of intel and what students were looking for direction. They can ask anything from prelim and HSC, and prelim is foundational for it. Because one year, I think it was the Catholic trial, this is not question 11, but anyway, the extended response was really about, answering life questions. How does the particular religious tradition answer life questions? So they're really, whether it's the Catholic trial or HSC, trying to mix it up so that it got to a point where the questions were very predictable and students writing prepared answers. And that still happens. But you can tell because they put a little bit that links to the question, making an extended response. The beginning and the end and the middle is something a bit different. With this one, I think last year it seemed like some did prepare really good. They wrote lots of great stuff on land rights. They had really good information on something else. And they had learnt it and they were going to put it there for us to read, regardless of whether it answered the question. You can pick a student and say, I've learnt it and put there because it's a bit related. related to Aboriginal spiritualities. Yeah.
I've always felt very sorry for the kids with question 11 because it's such a limited amount of space, and the breadth of stuff that they have to learn is quite extensive, and it is so compartmentalised. It could come from any of 5 or 6 areas.
Yeah.
There's no way to guess.
No. When you look at that, you look at the syllabus and you see the amount of area there, 10 multiple choice and a 5 marker. And I mean, that could well be why students probably think, well, we have to write a short answer or extend response. Say if it's 1 unit, 4-hour depth studies. 2 unit, they know they have to do religion and peace, extend response, so they focus on that in their depth studies, and this might get a bit left, I don't know. But then, if students can do well in the 5 mark and get the multiple choice right, that can tip them over to the band that they're after.
We're getting more census data soon anyway for...
That'll be, well, it takes, it's a bit quicker now, I think it's a bit quicker with it mostly online, but it took a while for the last lot. But there haven't been many census questions.
It's due this year, isn't it? Yeah, every 5 years.
But I keep saying we must know the statistics, and Liz did a great that great presentation here, Alderton, wonderful, and I thought, this is so good, but there really wasn't much on that in our papers since, but so this is the one.
I really like if I know about that Creative Spirits website. Is there any in particular websites, like especially for reconciliation? That 2012 question still because we even had a Twilight conference on it last year, wasn't it? And the Islamic lady had us lovely talk about why they should do it, but we don't. So.
Well, even in the feedback on the website, there's nothing specific listed at all to answer that question. It's a terrible
question. And the textbooks are old.
And that's where like with most of those religions, looking at the students trying to find something. So do most of the students have computers in the classroom?
Yeah.
So sometimes they can just, you say, right, see if you can find it. In pairs, both look, see if you can find something.
That's tough.
I did my own search.
The reconciliation website itself doesn't really.
I mean, we used it as a practice question at school, and doing my own searches with the kids. You found the thing on the Hindu religion making a statement of peace, or the bridge walk and stuff like that. A lot about the apology. But nothing specific, particularly not, I didn't find anything.
I think the best, looking at Uniting Justice, Uniting Church, Uniting Justice, there's some probably good information. They're really at the forefront in terms of reconciliation, and the Catholic Church has done a lot.
If you want information on Judaism, I'm just trying to get how we can distribute that. The information from Judaism, how long we got?
Time's over.
Who spoke last year, she was excellent, it was very interesting.
Specific organisations.
Yeah.
What is
You could probably email Louise or someone. That way.
So we have to registration.
Because Uniting Justice, they have some good things on their website.
The best one that I found was
Anyway, we need to. So thank you for being such an attentive.
Thank you very much.